Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the very warm FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And it's about that time of year where we start talking about the NFL. And today I am going to kick off my previews with the AFC West. So we're going to talk about all the teams in that division. I'm also going to look at the weekend, the remaining weekend in Aussie Rules football. We're at week 6. I believe they're only playing 16 or 18 weeks this year, so we're getting near the halfway point. And then we've got NASCAR in Kentucky this weekend and some interesting factoids about that race and maybe some interesting bets. So before we get into all that, let's do what we always do and update my bankroll. And last week was a massacre. We didn't have any winners. Sydney plus 9.5 was a big loser. They lost by 30-something, I think. Minus $19 to the bankroll. Hawthorne plus 7.5. It was a 10-point game at half. They were down 10. They got down 23 real early in the first quarter, and they could just never come back. Great Western scored like the first 3 or 4 goals in the second half, and then that was it after that. There's that motivation factor. When a team gets a certain number of goals down, do they really try to come back? And that was the case there, so there was no chance for that cover. Minus $19 to the bankroll. And then at the Brickyard last week, I had a half a unit each on Logano and Byron, both losers, minus $19 to the bankroll. That track grates the tires. I'm really surprised that they've been going there for how many years, and Goodyear hasn't come up with a compound that can last for a full run on that track. Basically, cars were just blowing tires and hitting the wall, and it happened 12 or 13 times during that race. Kevin Harvick won. He obviously knows how to bring the car home there. Logano was leading for the first stage, and then he failed. Byron was never a factor. But anyway, minus $57 total to the bankroll, so we dropped down to 506 this week, and dividing by 30 as we always do because we are selective sports bettors. Makes my bet size this week $17, so we're going to go forward with $17 wagers. So let's get into some NFL. Very exciting to talk about the NFL. And for those of you that do not follow football that closely, of course, the AFC West from east to west is the Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders, no longer the Oakland Raiders, and the Los Angeles Chargers. So interesting. We got good information on all these teams for you, and we got some betting odds. And let's just basically get right into it. Let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs. And so you can see the odds here. To win the division, minus 470. They are a heavy favorite to win the AFC West. And they are, I believe, the favorites to win both. Well, they're favorites to win the AFC at plus 306, 3-1. And to win the Super Bowl, about 6-1 there, plus 596. I'm not sure if there's a co-favorite on the NFC side, but obviously the Kansas City Chiefs are the defending champs, and they just gave Patrick Mahomes $477 million in guaranteed money, which means if he never plays another down in the NFL, he is a half a billionaire. So congratulations to him. The big question here, if you followed the Chiefs last year, is can the offense be stopped? And what I mean by that is, can they be stopped for a full game? Or can they be stopped for more than a half? Because if you looked at the playoffs last year, even in the Super Bowl, the AFC division round and the AFC title game, the Chiefs were stymied in the first half in pretty much all 3 of those games. But the second half, they just came out. Well, one of the games, they rolled out 28 points in the late second quarter. But in the Super Bowl, they just came out and dominated in the second half. And how much of that is Mahomes? I mean, this team is highly skilled. And basically, the defense is not as much of an issue for them because they can almost score at will. they can put up 56 points if they need 56 points to win a game. So can the offense be stopped? That's the issue. Running back by committee this year. They drafted a running back out of LSU. He's like 5'8". He's more of a receiving back, but they've got Damian Williams as their returning feature back. But it's going to be, if you're looking to, stock up on a fantasy player at running back, don't do it in Kansas City. Even Tyreek Hill is going to get some carries. They give him the ball in situations because he's the fastest man in the league. So you've got 4 main receivers. Obviously, you got Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. You've got Mecole Hardman and Sammy Watkins. And that's about it. I mean, of course, you've got some pass-catching running backs, but if 2 of those guys go down, Mahomes has got to have somebody to throw the ball to. So, if they have to rely more on their running game, that is not going to bode well for Kansas City. So, basically, the bottom line here is this team must stay healthy. Now, if they do stay healthy, I think 6-1 is actually pretty good odds for a Super Bowl bet on this team. They seem to have an easy road in their division, which would lead me to believe that they would get the first round bye, and it should be a return to the Super Bowl again if they stay healthy. Andy Reid can always go back to learning how to burn timeouts. He has a long history of poor clock management, but with his team scoring so quickly, with a team set up that way that scores just so quickly that it hides that, it masks that effect. So we'll see. But Kansas City looks very strong, and they should only get better if they stay healthy, unless teams figure out a way to stop them, and that's what the league does. They have to play catch-up. So we're going to move on to the Denver Broncos. And surprisingly, the odds on one of these other teams winning the division are not that high. And I feel like they should be way higher. 10-1 is good value, but I don't believe in the Denver Broncos, so I wouldn't be placing that bet. 30-1 to win the AFC and 67-1 to win the Super Bowl. Obviously, Drew Lock was the best quarterback they had last year. They're going forward with him. They're very, very deep at running back. They signed Melvin Gordon, and they still have Royce Freeman and Phillip Lindsay. So, super strong running game. They just drafted a first-round wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy, and he will be expected to be the number 2 wide receiver. We'll have to see what kind of talent he turns out to be. On the defensive side of the ball, which has been Denver's strength even all the way back to the Peyton Manning years, they're older now, and they're super thin at linebacker. They just barely have enough linebackers to cover their roster, to cover a starting 4-3. So that makes me wonder about this defense this year. The way this team is coached, it's designed to control the ball and to stop the run on defense. And the problem is they have no depth at safety. They have 2 or 3 safeties on the roster, and that any injury, in-game injury, or even not, could result in big play weakness. They're susceptible to giving up big plays. And if this team, as it's designed, gets into a shootout like they will with Kansas City, they're not going to be able to play catch-up. So this team is all about winning games in bad weather at Mile High, and controlling the ball and trying to establish the run and then throwing the ball after teams start to put 8 in the box on them. It's pretty simple, straightforward football. Things would have to go really, really well for the Broncos. I mean, I could see the Broncos becoming a playoff team. Drew Lock takes a big step forward this year. They have receivers, they have good skill players, and the defense would have to find the fountain of youth for another year. we'll just have to see how well that turns out for them. But, yeah, it's 10-1 to win the division. It should be much higher than that. And then on to the Las Vegas Raiders. To win division, 13.50, and this is the longest odds to win the division. To win the AFC, 25-1. To win the Super Bowl, 51.5-1. It's weird that the Broncos are more of a favorite to win the division and the Raiders are more of a favorite to win the Super Bowl. Figure that one out. Off-field drama should be over. Of course, the Oakland Raiders moved to Las Vegas, and they had to stay for a while the stadium's being built. And there's a lot of, a lot of non-player issues with the team and the management and sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. But that should be all over with going forward. And now you've got Derek Carr back and Marcus Mariota at quarterback. Now, you remember that Tannehill went to back up Mariota in Tennessee and then took over the team and led them, I believe, to the AFC title game. I think this is a smart move by John Gruden because if Carr has a bad game, he's got somebody besides Nathan Peterman to put in the game that can change the game. They can script plays for Mariota to do some things, to come in as a back, to come in and run some short yardage plays and then stay in the game for that's a CFL trick. 4th and 1, come in the game, run a sneak, stay in the game, run a couple of scripted plays. I think that would be good. I think it would be good to get Derek Carr, unless Derek Carr's on fire, to get him out of the game from time to time and just let him take a deep breath and then work on, finding the weaknesses in the defense. So you got Josh Jacobs at running back, and he has not always been healthy, and that's all they got. And if he stays healthy for a year, he'll be one of the best fantasy backs in the league. But I wouldn't count on that happening. I would hedge with another back. But he's a beast, and I really like what he could do if, again, if they can establish run in Las Vegas, they'll be able to throw all over the field. So they drafted a wide receiver in the first round. There were a lot of first-round wide receivers this year. Henry Ruggs, he is projected to be their number one go-to, and I have no idea how his talent is going to translate to the NFL. I can't read those tea leaves, but I know they're expecting big things from him. So that's a risky play if you're a fantasy player, but it has a lot of upside. Jason Witten signed a 1-year contract, and he's no longer a number one tight end, but if he can bring experience and teach these receivers and Derek Carr, that could be invaluable to them. And obviously in red zone situations, he's a great tight end for red zone situations. So even if they just use him there, it's got to be a plus for this squad. So here we have another team that has no depth at linebacker, and I trust Gruden to put together a solid defense, but it makes me wonder, without more than 3 linebackers on the roster, how the hell you're going to get a pass rush from this squad, because the linemen are going to be constantly fatigued, even if you're rotating them. So either there's going to be cornerbacks, a lot of blitzing, quarterbacks rotating the linebacker. I don't know. I am not an NFL caliber coach, obviously, but it makes that. I think that could be the weakness for this team, is the inability to get a pass rush against a team like Kansas City. That's not going to be very good. Against a team like Denver, it won't matter as much. So we'll have to see. But the Raiders, I think, are making strides. Obviously, I don't think they're a championship contender by any means. I don't see them making the playoffs, but they, if they stay healthy, they could easily compete for a wild card. And we lost our Chargers. We lost our Chargers screen, so I'm going to have to read it off the sheet. The Chargers are, I believe, 765 to win the division, and they were like 37-1 to win the Super Bowl, and 15-1 to win the AFC, which is fool's gold. It's fool's gold. The Chargers are in a rebuilding year, and they've got Herbert or Habert and Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. Now, they drafted this rookie from Oregon, and he's expected to be the starter. And how many rookie quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl? Not many. In the same division as the defending champs. I just can't see you betting a future on the Chargers. It's got to be fool's gold. I would not do that. It's a rebuilding year, no matter how you slice it. And let me explain why. You start at running back. Of course, Melvin Gordon is gone, but he had a contract dispute. Obviously, the ownership did not want to pay money. They wanted to move on from Phillip Rivers. They kept their coach, who's a good coach. But all they have left in the backfield is Austin Eckler, who is going to be a great back this year. Again, if he stays healthy, he's going to rack up a ton of fantasy points. He'll be the featured back. He'll catch a lot of passes. He'll be Christian McCaffrey light. So I would keep him in your back pocket if you are drafting a fantasy team. However, they have no improvements at receiver. I don't know if they've drafted any receivers off the top of my head. But they have the same crew from last year: Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Mike Williams, and one other player. It's just, I feel like they would need one or two fresh guys just to bring competition in and just to bring motivation back into the squad. It doesn't make any sense to me. They need to solve their ongoing kicking problem. The Chargers have had years and years of kicking issues and going through kickers 3 or 4 in a season, or they're getting injured, and that's something that needs to be addressed. And then finally, they have a young, healthy, hungry offense. And I'm sorry, young, healthy, hungry defense. And Joey Bosa and company, they've really designed an awesome defense for that team. If they can put an adequate offense. They've got to score 21 to 24 a game to win regularly. I don't know if Tyrod Taylor can do that. We have to see how the rookie is going to pan out. Again, that's reading tea leaves. I feel like they're going to split time at quarterback. Definitely a rebuilding year. This team's not drawing. They're waiting for the new stadium. It's going to be a long year for San Diego. I would not place a futures bet on them, and we'll leave it at that. I guess if there was one slide to miss, that was the one, because that did not work out well. Anyway, it's not going to work out well for San Diego. So we have Aussie Rules Week 6. And we have, let's add some odds here. We're going to look at these 3 games. And in the meantime, I'm going to pull up the rest of the games. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start with St. Kilda at Fremantle Dockers. You can see St. Kilda is minus 12.5. I've raved for the last 3 to 4 weeks about the St. Kilda Saints and their ability to move the football. They know how to draw you in and then go long. So if a team is not pressuring them, they'll slowly move the ball up the field. And if a team is pressuring them and coming up on whoever's possessing the ball, they will invite you in to challenge them, and then they will kick it long to get scoring opportunities. They're very good at ball movement. I do like this, minus 12.5 against Fremantle. I do want to say that most of these games are being played on neutral sites because of the COVID. They're playing double headers, so there's not really a home and away, but I will say at going forward here. And then we've got Saturday, the Adelaide Crows at West Coast Eagles. Adelaide is horrible. They're the worst team in the league. 30.5 is a lot of points. It depends at what point Adelaide gives up. I just don't know. I don't trust a spread that big with shortened quarters. But obviously, West Coast at minus 670 is a big favorite to win here. The Gold Coast Suns at the Melbourne Demons. And Gold Coast is getting 6.5 points here. And this is pretty good. But Gold Coast is one of two teams this week that I'm going to say is a little bit overrated because their kicking percentage is so high. Gold Coast for this season is kicking goals at a 63% rate, which means for every kick that was a scoring attempt, it's been a goal 63% of the time. And that's way above average in the Australian Rules League. So I expect that to come down. I don't. If you were getting 12 with Gold Coast, I would be all over it. Otherwise, I'd pass there. North Melbourne Kangaroos at the Essendon Bombers. And this one is the other team. Essendon is a very athletic, solid team. I've called them a middling team. They're one of those teams that's going to be right around 8th place. And North Melbourne is just decimated with injuries right now. But Essendon also has a kicking percentage of 63%, which is way above average. So I would not be surprised if North Melbourne gave them a competitive game. But you have to give the edge here to Essendon because of the just the overall health and fitness of their team right now. It's one of the best physical, athletic teams in the league. They just don't have a lot of size, but they're playing very well. And then Great Western Sydney destroyed Hawthorn last week, but they're taking on Port Adelaide Power, which in my opinion is the number one team in the league. Port Adelaide lost to Brisbane last week, and Brisbane turned around and just got crushed on Thursday night, Friday morning. So I like Port Adelaide here. I would take them on the money line. 1.5 points that's nothing in Aussie rules. Great Western Sydney is a good team, but I think Port Adelaide is the play here. And then on Sunday, we've got Sydney at Richmond, and these teams are 2-2 and 2-3. Sydney lost last week. It was their first real dud in about 3 weeks. This game is priced very close, 3.5 points. I like Sydney here. Richmond, these teams are very evenly matched. I don't know if it's enough points, but I do like Sydney here. And Western Bulldogs at Carlton Blues. Western has played great for 3 straight weeks. 10.5 points. I actually might like this a little bit better than St. Kilda, but I like Western to take care of business here. Carlton is much improved over last year, but they are not a playoff team in my opinion. So I like Western to get the job done. I haven't played much with totals here because of weather and teams are playing at not their usual venues. You know, Richmond would play half their games at the Melbourne Cricket Grounds, which is like, less than a mile from their team headquarters. But they have them spread out all over the country for different reasons. I don't know if it's social distancing or just a PR deal, but that's what is going on with Aussie Rules this week. And we will quickly get on to NASCAR. And let me, while I have this screen up, I'll just move over to this screen. And, wrong one. There we go. We're going to talk about the Quaker State 400 while I put up all the betting odds for you. And this, I don't know why it's obviously not the Quaker State. They're in Kentucky at Kentucky Speedway. And this is a very interesting track. It's like a medium tri-oval, so it's kind of like Pocono or Daytona, but it's only like a mile or a mile and a half, somewhere in that range. But this track, they've only run Cup cars here for 4 years, and Truex has 2 of those 4 wins. He was driving for Furniture Row Racing, which doesn't exist anymore. But the other teams that have had success here are the Ganassi team and the Gibbs team, of course, which Truex drives for now. So obviously that adds up to keeping an eye on the odds for Martin Truex. And Kurt Busch also has a win at this track. And so, short and sweet, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the Ganassi cars, the Gibbs cars, Truex, and Kurt Busch. If you're going by history, of course, they're not doing qualifying, so you don't have qualifying runs to read off of. So that is, in a way, that's very good because it will give you, I think, juicier odds. So let's wrap it up with my picks. And what do you know? I'm going with my favorite teams again. I think I just think these teams are undervalued. Obviously, Port Adelaide, in my opinion, is the best team in the league, and I'm going to take them on the money line at -107. And I think Richmond is bad. And I think Sydney is just as good as Richmond, if not better. So I'm going to take Sydney on the money line at +110. Now, let's see if they burn me again. But they have been better than Richmond. And I feel like that this is a good opportunity for them. So in NASCAR, I'm just going to keep it simple. Well, I'm making a little different bet this week. But Truex, I'm going to take him at +650, a half a unit. I expect him to compete for the win. He's dominated this track, so 650 is pretty good odds for that. And Matt Kenseth in the Ganassi car, number 42, I'm going to take him to finish in the top 10 at +130. I'm going to put a whole unit on that. Now, Kenseth is a very experienced driver. I don't expect him to compete for the win, but he knows how to bring a car in. I think he finished second at Indy last week. I do expect him to be able to bring the car in the top 10. He knows how to finish for points, and at some point he's going to have to go for a win to get in the playoff unless he just accumulates massive points the rest of the year. But I think that's a really good bet, +130 for a top 10 finish. So that's it for this week. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry I lost some of my graphics cards there. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I guess I forgot to save them. But next week we'll do another division in the National Football League, and hopefully we'll have some more sports to bet on. Hockey playoffs start August 1st. Basketball, end of NBA regular season, will start the last week of July. So we'll have some fun stuff to talk about. We'll try to cool off a little bit. I hope everybody has a great weekend and stays safe. And I'll play the outro music for you, and let's get some winners. Thanks for tuning in. Take care, everybody.